Big transfer of the day. Manchester United have signed Matheus Cunha from Wolves. Mark, let's start with you. Just break down this deal for us if you can.
Evening. It's like being the first day at school, isn't it? Great to see you both. Yeah, big news today for Manchester United fans. Obviously, disappointment in the Europa League final. They miss out on a load of cash, but they have got a player through the door. We've got a complete agreement between Manchester United and Wolves worth £62.5 million, which is payable in 3 instalments. This is subject to a visa and confirmation of registration. I think the key thing with this is the Brazil international wanted Manchester United. He's been making all of the right noises over the course of the last few weeks and months that his destination for him was Old Trafford and only Old Trafford. And this is a player that scored 33 goals in 92 appearances for Wolves and becomes Ruben Amorim's first signing of what is going to be a key summer for Manchester United.
Yeah, interesting you should say that Cunha desperately wanted Manchester United. I think United were pretty impressed that his desire was to come to Old Trafford, given that there was no European football, of course, next season. And they've been tracking him for a while. The opening game of the season before last, when he performed so well at Old Trafford. So, Carve, United, on the first day of this window, making what looks like a statement signing.
I think United are saying we still mean business. The season only finished a few days ago. Last season was totally unacceptable from United's point of view. There have to be big changes. Now, the first big change is a player as good as Matheus Cunha coming in. Everyone's seen what he could do at Wolves. It is a little bit surprising that he is willing to move to Manchester United at the moment, because people will be looking at this and saying, first of all, where's the money coming from United? And secondly, why does he want to go to United in their current state? But as Mark mentioned there, he still sees United as one of the biggest clubs in the world. We were told a couple of months ago that he loves Manchester United. He didn't care whether they were in the Champions League or not. His heart was set on moving to Manchester United. And as to where the money's coming from, United are paying in instalments. This release clause in the new contract that Cunha signed in January stated that he could leave if somebody paid £62.5 million in 3 instalments over 2 years. Now, last week, United got in touch with Wolves and said, can we pay this £62.5 million in 5 instalments? Wolves said, absolutely not. Pretty quickly, United came back to them and said, fine, we'll pay in 3 instalments. So in actual fact, they're only putting down £21 million. That'd be good.
That would be good.
£21 million at the moment, with 2 more instalments of around £21 million. So for a club as big and rich as Manchester United, it is an affordable deal. Although I hear what people are saying about United having FFP, PSR concerns and the finances not being as good as they used to be in the old days.
Mark touched on it there about what Matheus Cunha can bring to Manchester United. If we can just look at some of the stats from last season, you can see exactly why Manchester United were desperate to sign Cunha. 15 goals. He ranks 8th in the Premier League. And remember, he's not an out-and-out striker, Matheus Cunha. Goals from open play, they all came from open play. That equals 5th in the rankings. 110 shots, 44 of which were on target, and that puts him in the top 4 and the top 5, respectively. The expected goals, he comes in at 30th with 8.63. Mark, just on this transfer itself, though, we've mentioned it is day 1 of this mini transfer window, but it appears to be good timing for both Manchester United and for Wolves, doesn't it?
This is, I think, sensible business from Wolves. They signed this new contract with Cunha in January, and they knew exactly what was going to happen, and they could almost control how this summer was going to play out. Instead of having negotiations, back and forth, talk about other clubs, other teams coming to the table, it could drag on because Manchester United could say, actually, we don't want to pay this money. We're going to try and drive a hard bargain. We're going to wait. We're going to let the player agitate. He might not turn up for pre-season. There might be one of these things. We talk about sagas every single summer, don't we? And it becomes a bit of a nightmare for the players and the clubs involved. However, Wolves have exonerated anything like that happening by going, right, this is simple. This is the contract. This is what you've signed. The player's happy with it, the agent's happy with it, and anyone that wanted to buy Cunha knew exactly what the deal was. It was laid out, it was contractual, and it was simple. So therefore, Wolves will say this is great because on day one of the window, we don't have to talk about Matheus Cunha anymore. We know he's gone, it's sorted. And they can start to focus on the replacements that they want to get in as his replacement. So therefore, you've not got any awkwardness between the club, between the player. I think what Manchester United are getting is a player that, as we said, wants to go there. And one thing we've certainly seen over the course of this season, he's passionate, he wears his heart on his sleeve, he's not scared to go toe-to-toe with other players on the pitch and say exactly what he thinks off the pitch. So therefore, right now, that might be the right type of thing for that Old Trafford dressing room.
Yeah, so Matheus Cunha, as good as in at Old Trafford. Big question some are asking now is what impact could that have, if any, on their captain, Bruno Fernandes? Lots of talk surrounding his future, Carve. Is there a chance we could see Bruno Fernandes leaving Old Trafford?
I think if it happens, it'll happen this week because Al Hilal are very keen to sign him. They're willing to pay up to £100 million. They're willing to make him one of the best paid players in the world. But they're playing in the Club World Cup, which starts in 2 weeks' time. They've got a big game against Real Madrid, I think on June the 18th. They want a new superstar signing. Is it going to be Bruno Fernandes? Is it going to be Victor Osimhen? Is it going to be, incredibly, Cristiano Ronaldo? They also need a new head coach. I think the new head coach could be Simone Inzaghi, who may leave Inter Milan after last night. He's going to have a meeting with Inter on Tuesday about his future. But getting back to Bruno Fernandes, if you're a Manchester United supporter, do you trust what your manager said in public? Because I think on Friday, it'll probably be the last time we hear from Ruben Amorim for a while. He was very clear. He was asked some great questions about Bruno Fernandes' future, and he said, basically reading between the lines, I've spoken to Bruno, he's got this incredible offer, but he's told me he wants to stay. He's got a lot more to offer at this level, at his age. He knows the plans we've got for the club. He's going to stay. So if you trust your manager and what he's saying, Bruno Fernandes is staying. But what about this offer from Al Hilal? What does Bruno Fernandes himself want? Is he tempted? Why was his agent in Riyadh on Thursday having talks with senior Al Hilal executives? And what do Manchester United really think? We know their position is the player is not for sale. He's extended his contract. He's the captain. He's four-time player of the year at Manchester United. He's not going anywhere. But both of you two, if we were sitting in a pub having a drink, a non-alcoholic beer, you would both say to me, yeah, but Carve, every player has his price. Every player has his price. The club can say, oh, he's not for sale, he's not for sale. But they can look at it and say, this guy's going to be 31. Are we ever going to get £100 million for him ever again? I don't know. All I know is that United's position is he's not for sale. Ruben Amorim is saying he's not going anywhere. And I think the player loves United and he's not motivated by money.
Mark, before you come in there, Carve alluded to Ruben Amorim talking about Bruno Fernandes in that post-season tour of Asia, where Carve broke it down there. We can actually hear exactly what Ruben Amorim said about Bruno Fernandes.
I think he wants to stay. He's saying no to a lot of things, but it shows that he wants to win. And I think he's really young, he's really good. He needs to be on the best league in the world. Of course, I'm the manager, I'm the coach, but sometimes he's a decision manager. I'm the coach of the player. Of course, I talk with him, I explain things, and I just have that feeling. And when I'm one, you have the feeling if he wants to stay. Of course, sometimes in a lot of games this season he was so frustrated, but he knows what we are doing. So the thing that I have every time I speak with him is that he wants to continue, for sure, in Manchester United, but you never know. For sure in Manchester United.
Out of money that Al Hilal are offering, supposedly, the club can turn that down, given the financial picture.
we can find another way to win money.
Yeah, interesting quotes there from the Manchester United head coach, Ruben Amorim. He says he wants Bruno Fernandes to stay. He believes Bruno Fernandes will stay. And you can see why he would want his captain to stay. Have a look at some of these stats that Bruno Fernandes is compared to the other players in the Premier League. Most chances created. In 57 games, he's created 158 chances for Manchester United in the Premier League. Yes, he has played more games than the others, but he is by far and away clear of the next man in line there, Mohamed Salah, who's got 107 from just 5 games fewer. But 158 chances created in 57 games. You can see why on the pitch, perhaps they can't afford to do without Bruno Fernandes, Mark. But could you argue off the pitch, they can't actually afford not to accept this bid if it was to come in?
Well, I think this is the problem that Manchester United have, and we've heard Sir Jim Ratcliffe talk so openly and publicly over the course of the last few weeks, months, year or so, about how desperately bad the finances are for Manchester United, hence why we've seen huge redundancies, hence why we've seen club legends lose their position at the club. They have been going through the organisation, the business, with a fine-tooth comb to go, right, we need to save as much money as possible, and we need to turn this from a loss-making football club into a profitable one. So therefore, all of those noises would lead you to think, well, actually, they're actually looking at things off the pitch at the moment. They need to get financially their house in order before they start to invest in the team. And therefore, when you get this kind of money potentially on the table, should Al Hilal move to get Bruno Fernandes, it might be hard for Manchester United to say, actually, no, we're going to stick with Bruno. He's a part of our footballing philosophy. On the pitch, we need him. That goes against the noises that have come out. I think the way that Manchester United play this with regards to a PR perspective is going to be key, because ultimately every player has his price, as Carve said. They'll want to be seen publicly. We don't want to sell any of our best players, particularly our captain. But actually, they might say, well, this is really good money. Only once in footballing history has a player over the age of 30 moved for more than £100 million. That was Cristiano Ronaldo from Real Madrid to Juventus. So this would be unprecedented money for someone of his age. And I think this potential sale would split the fan base. I think there'd be 50% of United fans that would say, no, that age, good money, time to see him go. And then the other 50% will say, this is a disaster. This is not what this club's about. He, based on those figures, is someone that we need to keep at this football club in the most difficult of times.
If he's going to go, who's going to be left at Manchester United? Attacking players. I mean, Jadon Sancho's going. Anthony's going. Marcus Rashford is going. Alejandro Garnacho is probably going. Question marks over the future of Rasmus Højlund. Who's going to be left to play with Matheus Cunha?
It's funny you mentioned that, actually, Carve, because you've teased what we're going to talk about Manchester United later on in the show, where we'll be talking about some of those attacking players, Garnacho, Rashford, Sancho, Anthony, and maybe even Kobbie Mainoo, which is a bit of a worry for some Manchester United fans if a bid was to come in for him, what United would do. Just before we go to the break, Carve, just reiterate, I know you've spoken about this about 45 times in the lead up to this opening of this mini window, but it is June the 1st. Just explain why the window is open at the moment.
The reason is FIFA's decided to have this new competition, which starts in 2 weeks' time in America. It's basically a World Cup, but instead of countries, it's a World Cup for clubs. Starts June the 15th, finishes